Pandemic.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Mm-hmm.
They do some of the most phenomenal musical wonders I think I've seen in years. It was like, in a way, watching old Hollywood, movies, which I'm a huge fan of. Busby Berkeley and all the big musicals with Gower Champion and then Gene Kelly, who, by the way, I danced with when I first came out here.
Really?
Yes, it's true. I danced with Debbie Reynolds, Gene Kelly, and Donald O'Connor, all at different times, because I came out here as like a singer-dancer, jumping back through time really quickly.
Well, I like jumping back through time. That's a conceit we use here often, and it's all the more appropriate with you as the co-creator of one of the greatest time travel shows. I would actually argue the greatest time travel show in the history of television.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Well, so let's do like a long tracking shot across a mirror and jump back in time to you, I guess right before you first came out here and danced with Gene Kelly and these other famous people.
Yeah, my first job out here. I was born in a small town called Chicago, raised with my three sisters, whose names all begin with D: Diane, Donna, and Deirdre. Went to the Academy of Our Lady School for Girls, very Catholic, and survived that. Spent summers in Louisiana, and for all my relatives down there on both sides of the family, I say hello to Bryans and the Averys. And if you know Baton Rouge, you know that Avery Island is an area, beautiful botanical gardens, but it's also where Tabasco comes from. So there's a whole interesting legacy there. And then when I graduated college, and I graduated early because I was in a hurry, I was supposed to get a degree in psychology, and then ended up going into theater and discovered I could sing and dance and all these things that my parents went, no, you're supposed to be a professional. That's not professional entertainment.
You didn't know that you could sing and dance before you got to college?
Well, not really. I mean, I think the first time I sang, my mother told me, she came to the Christmas play and she opened the program and it said, and Deborah Pratt solo. And she said, I didn't know you could sing because I never sang around the house, but I had just kind of really freaky soprano voice. I had 3.5 octaves. And that was at a very early age. But again, I had no show business family or anything. So it was not, I didn't go to voice lessons or anything like that. So when I went off to college, I thought, oh, well, I'll do a minor in music and theater because I really liked it. And I'd done a couple of plays. And every time I auditioned for Marat Sa or Tea House of the August Moon, or I can't remember what the other one was, I got the lead. And I thought, oh, I must be really good. And that was a great experience. And so then the school I went to was Webster University, which is a wonderful school. And they have a theater company, repertory theater. So as a student, I got to be in the repertory plays as well. And I wrote my first play, and that got me into writing. And then I graduated, and I told my parents I really wanted to take a year off and try show business. And they were very lovely about it, and then said, okay, but then you have to go back to school and either get a master's or a doctorate and get a real job. And I auditioned for 2 traveling Broadway shows. One was Godspell, the other was Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. And I got both of them. I chose Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, and I was understudy to everybody. And I did that show for about a month. And then my mother called me and said, oh, these people from Hollywood are coming out and they're having an audition. So do you want to go check that out? And I thought, well, I have a job, but sure. Mom said, you said you want to do television. And so I went down, and it was like American Idol. There were about 500 women, and we auditioned all day. And at the end of the day, it was myself and one other woman. And I raised my hand and said, this has been really fun, but I have a job. I have to go to work. And the executive producer said, don't you understand what we're offering you? I said, well, you haven't offered me anything. You have my address, you have my name and my number. So when you do, we can talk about that. But right now, I have to go to work. And he said, where do you get this? And he said, F you attitude. And I said, well, who are you to even ask me that question? I said, call me if you want to offer me a job. And they did. And so I was flown out to California, got the job, and came back and worked with Dean Martin on his TV show way back in the day, and played Vegas and got to sing and dance and travel and did that for a year, and then decided I should go into acting. I wrote a couple of albums with people and tried the music industry, but the music industry and I didn't get along that well at the time. I think it was the 80s. It was just too many drugs, 70s, 80s. And so I started writing. I started doing TV, and I started writing. And I had a couple of pilots that never went. And then I was doing a series called Airwolf, and reoccurring on a series called Magnum PI, and asked if I could write an episode of Airwolf. And the executive producer said, sure, go ahead. And it was good. And we ended up, after probably 9 rewrites, shooting it. And then I wrote 1 or 2 episodes on Magnum PI. And that's kind of what started. And he said, you want to learn how to produce? And I said, yeah. And that's what got me into being behind the camera. And I fell in love with it. I think my music education, my acting education, all kind of serviced my writing, and then eventually my producing and directing.
Thanks for checking out Pandemic, brought to you by Roadmap Writers and Notes for Execs. I'm Joel Silberman, and if you're interested in more intimate interviews with writers on writing, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. Thanks very much, and stay safe.